Hey, this is Notser, and today we're talking about rank and my initial impressions on the 12th rank season. I've made it up to rank 5, I've enjoyed myself. The queue time, though, is like 10 or 20 minutes, so I'm going to pause a little bit to allow more players to reach it so that the queue isn't ridiculous. But I did want to talk about two things that were changed this season. The inclusion of CVs with their reworked design, and then rental ships. Now note the enemy team. There is a rental Zhao and a rental Shimakaze. There's not a single rental ship on my team. So already I see an issue with the game and rank. Namely, there seems to be no protection for your team or the enemy team so that they aren't having to be burdened with carrying so much inexperienced players. I have seen it as bad as 4 rental ships on a team against a full team of experienced players. That's ridiculous. Really? Really, Wargaming? You didn't spend the time to consider whether the player's rental ship is something that you want to filter in rank? Really? You thought it was completely okay to allow the rental Shimakaze to have the same weight as a fully unlocked Shimakaze? Really? That was your choice. It was a really bad choice, and it's one that I completely disagree with. On top of all that, that'll cause toxicity right there. Their names are in brackets, so every single person knows who the new player is or the inexperienced player, so friendly and foe can target either their toxicity or their shells at the person. So you're trying real hard to bring in players. I get it. You want these tier 8s and these tier 9s to experience rank for themselves so that they feel the urge to maybe spend money and time and play the game and unlock. I get it. It makes sense. But you did it in such a lazy way. And honestly, it looks really bad because it just shows that you weren't thinking about the people who actually are playing rank. You were trying to convert players who don't play rank, regardless of the people playing rank and their experience in it. Like, really? You didn't even spend the time to make sure that the teams had evenly distributed rentals? Really? Something that probably would take 5 or 10, 20 minutes, if that, to program, just have a flag for rental. Oh, you can't do this. Oh, but it would negatively impact the queue. So what? My games are negatively impacted. I think having a longer queue so that the games aren't negatively impacted is something that the majority of the player base can get behind. I am going to say without a doubt, I would rather wait 15 or 30 seconds so that both teams have an even amount of low-skill players, low-experienced players, so that it's not a situation where you're having to carry every single game because you're just one of those unfortunate souls who happens to always get on the rental ship team. I don't think it's a lot to ask that the current players who actually spend money, time, and play these queues and these game modes get priority over the players who have yet converted. I get it. You want them to play it. But please just consider the players that are playing it more. Really, I know you guys love us, and you're trying to go right up to the edge. You're trying to do as much as you can and still keep everyone excited and supporting the game. But, rank is so stressful already. Regardless of rentals, rank is awful for a lot of people because either they lack the skill to carry every game, so they're just stuck there, hoping that their team wins or that they happen to do just enough damage to save a star. Thankfully, the ships that I have chosen and the commanders, the 19 skill command, I've got everything. So I pretty much save a star every single game or win it. I'm not necessarily disappointed in the rental structure from my point of view. I'm speaking for the average person who plays rank. The average person who, comes home from work, they've played the game for 2 years or a year, they've unlocked at least 1 or 2 tier 10s, and they're probably stuck with only those 2, and they're having to play those over and over and over, and maybe they're not carry ships. but they certainly have to be carry ships because a significant amount of their teammates will probably be rentals. And rentals are guaranteed inexperienced players. That's a guarantee. And it's just so disappointing that Wargaming didn't think about the players as much as they probably should have. To them, it was a question of Tier 8 and Tier 9 players having a chance to experience rank and a little bit faster queue time. And that's probably what they'll reference. And it's disappointing because it shows that they aren't actively dealing with the same issues that some of the player base are. You know, they're just ignorant of it and they're not interested in considering. Now, maybe they are. Maybe this is the first and only season that rentals will be available for rank. Maybe they'll learn their lesson. Maybe, just maybe, they'll hotfix so that not one team is stacked with rentals and having to compensate for the lack of experience that they globally have on their team. Rank is already stressful enough. Having to consider and carry for these rentals is not a healthy experience. For all the people that you bring in, you're probably going to disenfranchise just as many to not participate in rank. So for me, the implementation was not the right way for rank. It's certainly okay for clan, but for rank there has to be more consideration for a balanced approach for both sides. Maybe even filter out further, because the unlocks are basically you play a single game in Tier 8 or higher during the rank season, you get 3 rentals of that class at Tier 10. It might not be the line that you've been working on, but that doesn't matter for Wargaming, right? If they just considered, oh, well, you have a Fletcher, well, then you get the gearing, and that's the only rental you get, I would be more in favor of something like that, because at least it's considering the player's experience with the rental that they're allowed to play. But, you know, that's the rental situation. We've talked about it. Let's talk about the aircraft carrier stuff, because that's also a big topic of discussion for the 12th rank season. And it's the first time that we've had the rework. Thankfully, Wargaming nerfed high explosive dive bombs for the midway, so they're in line with the Haku and the Audacious, the 3 aircraft carriers that you'll fight. But honestly, it's not been a big deal for me, because on North America at least, there's not a big CV population. And the CVs that are, you know, heavily populated, who play on queue, they're having to deal with players who are building for AA, they're playing ships that are very strong in it, and players who work better together. They're grouped up tighter, they're using defensive better, there's better layering. The aircraft carrier hasn't been a big deal at all. Thankfully, it's been honestly pretty healthy for me. I haven't had to deal with them that frequently. There have been a couple times where, you know, a carrier is focusing me down, and I get it, you know, kill the DD or kill the whatever, and it sucks. But you can retreat to your teammates, and at least generally, they are a higher skill than random would be. So for my estimation, the CV rework in rank is a success. They also, a big success of it, limiting aircraft carriers to 1 per team. That is a huge plus in my book. Knowing that I will only ever face 1 CV is such a hugely pleasant experience compared to random. It's not that big of a deal on North America, I grant you that. Southeast Asia is the worst server for this. I think some of my viewers were saying that they averaged 2 CVs per game in random, and it would flex up to 3 very frequently. And I've heard that Southeast Asia rank is also very CV heavy. And that does limit the number of ships that you can play effectively by yourself. If you're not one of those ships that has great AA, or you have a great commander who can spec into good AA, you basically have to rely on someone else to defend you. And I get that sucks, but in general, the CV implementation was a success. They didn't have any noticeable issues with rank. There's not 1 aircraft carrier that's completely broken, and I'm really happy for that, because that was my concern. I was concerned with the Haku, and the implementation initially on the public test server was going to just be broken with the 4 torpedo, but they didn't implement that change. That was not in 8.4, so the Haku could never become that super crazy powerful ship that I feared that it could have been. But for rank and the CV, it's great. There's no issue with it. I have played a couple of CV games. It's not as easy as they might make it look, and there are certainly a lot of players that are grouped up and they're skilled. So I'm cool with the CV change. Yeah, I'm cool with the CV change. I'm just thinking over. It's not the worst thing. And thankfully, Wargaming didn't allow aircraft carriers to be rented. Gee, I wonder why. Because that would have been awful, right? A low-experienced player controlling a high-experience class. Where have I heard that before? Oh, DDs. Probably the most important class in rank, and you can rent them. I would honestly also like the rental to maybe consider that cruisers and battleships are a little less of an experience demand for rank because they don't have to play the objective quite the same way. I don't know why DDs were given the opportunity to be rented for rank. They're just so important to your team. Clearly the enemy got screwed and they were stuck with a Shima who, low experience player. It's okay that he's low experience. It's just not okay that the enemy team had to deal with that. That's where, the issue occurs. So I'm hoping that Wargaming will take this feedback and make changes or not implement it again. Obviously, leave in the comments what you think of both of these topics. Thank you for watching. If you would like to check out more of my videos, you can click the most recent and the most relevant uploads. You can also subscribe to my channel. I do daily World of Warship videos, first impressions, how-tos, reviews, and news articles. I stream at twitch.tv/Notser. Thank you, have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.